Good morning, everyone. So, this is the continuation of the revised taxonomy of Bloom's taxonomy in cognitive domain. So, in the revised taxonomy, there is two dimensions, which is the cognitive dimension and the knowledge dimension. In this table, you will see the first column contains the cognitive dimension, which are the remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. While in the second to the fifth column, you will see the knowledge dimension, which are the factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive knowledge. So first, we will know the meaning of each knowledge dimension. First one is the factual. Factual is a terminology, specific details, and elements. So, as I say, factual is the basic elements a student must know to be acquainted with a discipline solves problem in it. Next is the conceptual. Classifications, categories, principles and generalizations, theories, models, and structures. So when we say conceptual, it is the interrelationships among the basic elements within a larger structure that enable them to function together. And then the procedural. Procedural is the subject-specific skills. Those are algorithms, techniques and methods, criteria for determining when to use the procedures. So, procedural is how to do something, methods of inquiry, and criteria for using skills, algorithms, techniques, and methods. And the last is the metacognitive knowledge. Metacognitive is the knowledge of cognition in general as well as awareness and knowledge of one's own cognition. So, in this table, we will see the example of each cognitive dimension under this knowledge dimension. So, first, remember. Remember is recognize or recall. Used to remember the things that we learned in the past and use it in the present. So remember facts. This is the example of each cognitive dimension in the knowledge dimension. So remember facts. Example is the list the ingredients of kare-kare. So we will remember the ingredients of the kare-kare. So by listing the ingredients, we will be able to remember each of one ingredient. Next is remember concepts. For example, the example of this is describe kare-kare as a Filipino dish. Next is remember procedures. Example, recall the steps in cooking kare-kare. So, by using the remember, you will recall the steps or the procedures in cooking kare-kare. Then, in metacognitive, remember metacognitive knowledge. Example, review tasks accomplished in cooking kare-kare. The second cognitive dimension is understand. It is interpret, exemplify, classify, summarize, infer, compare, and explain. The example of understand facts is summarize the features of the latest smartphone model. Then under the conceptual, understand concepts. Example is classify smartphones according to operating system. Next is understand procedures. For example is describe the procedure of sending group messages using cell phones. Then understand metacognitive knowledge. Choose best strategies to adjust quickly in using a different smartphones. The third one is apply. It is execute and implement. So apply facts. Example is use facts in answering questions. So you're applying the facts that you know in answering the questions that are given to you. Then apply concepts is demonstrate coherence in answering questions. The next one is apply procedures. For example is follow the PQ4R steps in reading a chapter. And the last one is apply metacognitive knowledge. For example is use the best study strategy to overcome one's weakness. The fourth cognitive dimension is analyze. Analyze is used to differentiate, organize, and attribute. So analyze facts. For example is identify the keywords in definition of anger. In the analyze concepts, identify triggers of anger among teenagers. Analyze procedures. Examine the different steps family members take to manage anger. Then, analyze metacognitive knowledge. It reflects on one's ability to manage anger. The fifth cognitive dimension is evaluate. Evaluate is check and critique. Evaluate facts. For example, is select the most complete list of investment banks. Then analyze, evaluate concepts. Critique the different views about financial literacy. The third one is evaluate procedures. Choose the best ways to invest money. Then, evaluate metacognitive knowledge. For example, is assess one's financial literacy. The last one is create. Create or generate, plan, or produce. And produce. For example, is create facts. Produce a presentation showing award-winning adobo recipes. In the create concepts, write an informal essay about what authentic adobo is. Then create procedures. For example, create a new recipe for cooking adobo. And the last one is create metacognitive knowledge. For example, is making a project about adobo as a Filipino dish based on one's talent. Practical guide in using the revised taxonomy. When you are ready to plan your units, lessons, or activities, Bloom's taxonomy will be very useful in helping you formulate your learning objectives. So this revised taxonomy or the practical guide in using the revised taxonomy will be very helpful in us future teachers or in the future to make our learning objectives or to formulate the learning objectives. So below is a collection of action words and possible or work which you can use for your plan. So here are the simple action words and suggested activities, outputs, or outcomes for the cognitive dimension levels. So the first one is remember. Remember is recalling information. You will recall the first information that you know to apply. The action words that can be used in remember are recall, describe, name, locate, list, write, state, find, tell, underline, reproduce, and define. So the suggested activities under the remember are the recitations, worksheets, definitions, fact charts, and lists. The next one is understand. Understand is explaining information and concepts. The action words in understand that can be used are explain, describe, translate, define, interpret, report, discuss, and predict. The suggested activities are story problems, drawing show and tell, summary, and paraphrasing. Next is apply. Apply is using information in a new way. The simple action words are use, practice, solve, execute, implement, demonstrate, construct, dramatize. The suggested activities are presentation, role-playing, simulation, collection, model, scrapbook, and product. So, analyze. Analyze is distinguishing different parts of a whole. So, the action words are compare, contrast, distinguish, separate, investigate, differentiate, infer, and sequence. And the suggested activities are chart, plan, questionnaire, spreadsheet, summary, and survey. The fifth one is evaluate. Evaluate is defending a concept or idea. The simple action words are assess, appraise, debate, check, defend, decide, dispute, justify, judge, and rate. The suggested activities are opinion, judgment, recommendation, report, self-evaluation, position paper, and critique. The last one is create. Creating something new. The simple action words are change, invent, design, devise, formulate, generate, improve, compose, plan, combine, and propose. While the suggested activities are framework model, story, multimedia, presentation, poem, haiku, song, and essay. So those are the simple action words of cognitive dimension levels and the suggested activities that can be helpful to us. So next is the uses of the revised taxonomy. The revised taxonomy provides a framework that helps educators in the following ways. So this is the ways that can be helpful to us. Number one is it provides educators with a common set of terms and levels about learning outcomes that help in planning across subject matter and grade levels. So yun nga, ang revised taxonomy nga ay nagpo-provide sa atin ng mga terms at mga levels na maaari nating magamit sa paggawa ng learning outcomes para sa future student natin. Then, the next one is, it helps in the drafting of learning standards across levels. The third one is, it serves as a guide in evaluating the school's curriculum, objectives, activities, and assessment. Then the last one is, it guides the teacher in formulating learning outcomes that tap higher order thinking skills. So makakatulong nga ito sa teacher para makabuo ng learning outcomes na magse-set ng mas mataas na higher order thinking skills sa mga bata. So that is all for the revised taxonomy. Hope you learned something about this. Thank you.